Welcome to the Highline Herd podcast, where we dive deep into the world of horses and the people who love them. Join us for new episodes every Sunday as we explore everything from horse care, riding tips, and anything else equestrian related. To keep up with the herd, be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Highline Herd and visit our website at thehighlineherd.com. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Highline Herd. I'm Skylar.
I'm Shelby, and this episode's going to be tying right into our last one.
Part 2.
Yep. So we kind of touched on it a little bit, so we would have a nice transition into this one. But this episode is going to be giving you information about the BLM, or the Bureau of Land Management, their role, why they exist, how they came to be, and what they do. Because they do have an important role.
Yes, and specifically for the Mustangs.
Yep. So, what pushed all of this, our spark for the BLM, what really helped it become what it is today, was the public outcry that forced Congress to pass the Wild Free Roaming Horses and Burros Act to provide necessary management and protection for horses and burros on public lands. All of that was put into play in 1971.
Yes.
So when you really think about it, 40 years, maybe 50. I'm not the greatest with my numbers, I won't lie. But it's been 50 years or less that we have been actively trying to understand and manage Mustangs.
Yeah.
So, we have to give some credit where credit is due. There's not a whole lot out there to guide the BLM in their tactics. They just know they want to do better than the people before them and the people they're replacing. Because, before the Bureau of Land Management came to be, and again, we are not saying, oh yeah, give the BLM all of your money. We are not saying, oh, the BLM is amazing. We're also not saying they're terrible. We are here to help you understand their role. So, the BLM's role was to replace the people that were regularly shipping, abusing, and slaughtering Mustangs.
Yeah, or culling.
Yeah, they were poisoning water holes. They were shooting them from aircrafts. They were basically mutilating them and crippling them and then leaving them to rot. Or they were all corralling them into places and shipping them to places for meat, not caring how they got there, just that they got there and they got paid by the pound.
Yes, and a huge advocate that we talked about in our previous episode was Wild Horse Annie. She was the one who kind of led the charge to speak out against all of the inhumane practices that people were doing on these Mustangs. And because of that, and because of media becoming this big thing, especially in that time, that's what fueled the fire to have this act passed.
Yeah. So, the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, is our modern day Wild Horse Annie. It is the modern day protection for Mustangs.
Yes.
So whether you like them or not, or agree with them or not, please understand their role. And their role is to help the Mustang. It is to spread information about the Mustang. It is to help people understand Mustangs are not the pests and plagues that so many people want to portray them as.
Yeah, no.
So, there's so much controversy due to Mustangs and where they live. They occupy public land. They occupy ranching land. They occupy land ranchers want to use for cattle.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a part of why there's so much controversy, why there's so much disagreement there.
Yes.
Because you have how the ranchers want to handle it. You have how the government wants to handle it. You have how advocates and, activists want to handle it. And no one's ultimately going to be happy with any of the situations put forward because everybody has their own way that they think is best.
Yeah.
So the Bureau of Land Management, all they want to do is help the Mustangs find a new path on life. So just as thoroughbreds, when they are no longer racing or not fit for racing because some never make it to the track, get a new lease on life. Usually as jumpers, usually as dressage horses, usually in eventing or cross country. The Mustang deserves the same chance.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
And, we talked a little bit about where they came from, right? The different breeds that kind of go into the not breeds, but the different traits that each HMA may have for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. Now, and when we say HMA, that means herd management area. So that is a designated area in a certain state, whatever terrain, that a herd resides in.
Yeah, and the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, tracks those HMAs. They
Yes.
keep track of the numbers, and when the numbers reach a certain point, they go in, they gather them up, and then they try to adopt them out. They do their best to get people to understand that Mustangs are a worthwhile animal to have around in certain situations.
Yes.
So,
and on top of that, too, like in
Yeah.
those HMAs, something that you'll hear a lot, especially if you do start researching Mustangs, is AML, Appropriate Management Level. That's the number of horses or burros that can be in an HMA. And that's the number that the BLM designates for each area.
yeah, and there's definitely a lot of consideration that goes into those AMLs, those appropriate management levels.
Yes.
The main one being, how is the population affecting the land?
Yes.
Is there enough there to support them?
Are they able to survive off of that land? Are they starving? Are they having a bunch of health issues? Are there natural predators there that will eliminate some of the population? All of that.
How much inbreeding is occurring?
Exactly.
So-
Yes.
It's when the BLM decides their roundups, please understand, like, again, we are just trying to spread information so you guys can make a fair call. Please understand that the BLM is doing the best they can with the information they have.
Yes.
So when they go in and round up horses, believe it or not, the way they do it is as humane as they can compared to the ways it's been done before.
Oh, 100%.
So, the Bureau of Land Management, do we always agree with their methods? No. Helicopters and four-wheelers aren't always the best way, or the safest way, or the most stress-free way. But when you start getting out west and you start looking at that terrain, and
Sometimes.
how well those horses can manage it,
Yeah.
you can't always do the most kind method of roundup.
Well, and something else to think about too is even if you were to go in, say, ride around horseback to try to round up these herds, those horses have the wild horses. They have a better understanding of the terrain, how to navigate it than domesticated horses, and they're not carrying the weight of a rider. Because I've heard many people argue like that would be a more efficient way of going in.
But it wouldn't, because
Yeah.
there's a couple of reasons. One, like you said, the wild horses aren't dealing with the added weight of a rider, and the wild
Yep.
horses are better equipped for that terrain. But also, horses are herd animals. You have no guarantee if you send a cowboy in that his horse isn't going to get swept up in the excitement and dump
Mhm.
him to join the herd.
Yeah.
You have no guarantees of that. And then, it's human nature. If you panic, you grab control and you tense up. Then you could wind up with that cowboy's horse getting hurt. You could wind up with the cowboy getting hurt. So, there's so many factors and considerations that go into how we round up, why we round up, that you can't say one method's 100%
Yeah.
than another. Because this is all about trying to keep everybody happy. Give Mustangs a new lease on life, allow ranchers to still have land to use for their cattle and livestock, and to do so in a humane and kind way.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to do all three.
You can't please everybody.
No, and that's part of the reason there's so much controversy around it.
Yep.
And that's part of the reason I do want to make clear as we go into this episode and the next one, we are not advocating for one side or another. We are not supporting one way or another. Our intention is to purely provide you education and information, and to hopefully help you understand that the Mustang is not a blight on the land.
Yeah.
They are just the product of an unfortunate, brutal, bloody history. Horses were not always kept in nice, pretty pens. It was
No.
high lines and hobbles and pickets and, corrals of timber thrown together. They were inevitably going to get loose. Riders were going to be killed during war or hunting parties, and those horses weren't always regathered.
Yeah.
So, our brutal and bloody history is what created these horses, and we should have an ounce of respect for them for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, then you get into the BLM and their role trying to adopt out these horses, trying to track these HMAs.
Well, let's take a break. Let's talk about what happens when they're rounded up.
Because there's a couple of things. Why the BLM adopts them out.
Yeah. So when a horse or when a herd gets rounded up from any type of area, what happens is the BLM will take them to temporary holding pens where they will be sorted, they will be doctored, they will be branded and categorized, and everything is documented.
That's the key there, is the BLM isn't just putting them in pens. The BLM is doing their best to give them vaccines, give them the necessary blood tests, and take care of whatever may need taken care of as best they can.
Yes.
These are wild, untouched horses. There are some things, like an injury, that they may not be able to fix effectively because the horse is untouched. It doesn't want to be touched sometimes.
And they're very fearful of humans for the most part.
Yeah. So, they come in and, like Skylar said, they are doctored to the best of their abilities. They are vaccinated. They are documented. Pregnant mares are separated. Foals are separated.
Yes. Well, because they also don't want more horses to reproduce in those holding pens. And that's all for their own safety and everybody else's safety, period. So that's something that you'll see a lot. A lot of people will talk about. That's probably one of the most controversial, is the roundups themselves and what happens to the horses. But the BLM is just sorting through, getting everything in order for adoption. The horses that they round up, they will pretty much always advertise for adoption at some point. Some of the horses get cycled through different adoption events. They'll take them around to different states and try to have in-person adoption events, but they also have what's called the IA, or the internet auction, where they will list hundreds of Mustangs, photos and videos, and as much information as they can of the specific horse, like where they were rounded up, what year, what date they were rounded up. All of that is identifiable by their freeze brand that's on their neck. All of that information is right there on that horse's advertisement that you can look through and sort. Those internet auctions happen. That's how you can acquire a Mustang. Or you can go in person to one of their adoption events.
So why would you want to adopt a Mustang? Why does the BLM try to push them for adoption?
That is a big, big question. Well, what happens to the horses that don't get adopted? They go to permanent holding pens. And it's just giant pens with these horses. They have enough room to walk around. They have access to food and water and shelter when needed. But ultimately, they're just there for the rest of their days. So they are trying to adopt out as many horses as possible. Because, like you said, the Mustangs deserve a chance, just like the thoroughbreds or any other breed of horse that can't be used for their intended purpose. The Mustangs just simply don't have a purpose. They haven't been given one. And that's up to people who adopt them to give them that purpose.
And that's all the BLM is trying to do, is give them a new purpose.
Yep.
Because, like Skylar said, the BLM actually does a lot. They push their adoption events. They push their online auctions. They openly advertise where they have pins that you can go and purchase a horse for as low as $125.
Yes.
And, me personally, having seen Sundown, having, been with Skylar as she's gone on this journey and done this research, I've actually thought to myself, if you buy a yearling Mustang for $125, you can put all the time you want on that horse for a year or two. You can put in all these buttons. You can do all the training, desensitizing, whatever you as the human want out of a horse, because we all have different ideas of what makes a good horse.
Yeah.
Who's to say a Mustang wouldn't make a good lesson horse, a good trail horse, a good pack horse?
Yep.
They may never be, what judges want to see in Olympic level eventing. They may never see what a judge wants to see in a reining class. But why can't they help, people learn how to have horses?
Exactly. And why not give them that chance to shine too?
Right. Because, you get horses and this is where a horse is a horse is a horse.
Yep.
While Sundown is amazing in his temperament and his curiosity and his willingness to learn, his desire to learn, we have a domesticated horse here who I think would absolutely rather play possum than ever be haltered or bridled to go teach a kid how to handle a horse.
Yeah.
I think Sundown would be much more willing to help a kid or an adult understand horse behavior, understand how we halter a horse who's not 100% yet. How do we handle a horse?
How do we start that conversation with the horse?
Exactly. And then, we have Chance, who I truly think he would be one of those horses who plays dead until you leave him alone.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And you know what? Chance has been around humans his entire life.
Yeah. And that's something that I'm quickly learning with Mustangs. It is a complete blank slate when you're training and working with them.
It really is. And you know what? There is some benefit to that because, Willie is a great example of how much a human can mess up a horse.
Yes. Because of Willie's past, and I've talked about it briefly before, like, he definitely came from some place where abuse had happened. And he's still very traumatized, even to this day. I've had him for 7.5 years now. And still, to this day, there's things that I have to be careful about doing because I know it could trigger an episode with him. And it can send him back to those bad times. And it's just something I have to acknowledge going forward. And I just got to keep in mind that he's always going to have those traumas.
And, as with people, every day is different.
Yep.
There are some days Willie is, nope, not happening. I'm not doing anything new. Do not ask me to brave my scaries.
Yeah.
And then there's other days where I think he would truly walk through fire if you asked him to.
100%. Yeah.
So, and then the Mustang, you get a blank slate. You can make it exactly what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And as a lesson horse, what do we want?
That?
Yeah. That's what we want. We want a blank slate because a blank slate is a lot safer than Willie.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that, to dog Willie by any means, but a traumatized horse, you never quite know how they're going to react 100%. Because every trigger is going to have a different strength.
Yep.
And every horse with that kind of trauma, has the capacity to explode. Yeah. If you hit it just right on the right day with the right thing.
Yep, there you go.
And I mean, a horse is a horse. They're herd animals, they're prey animals, they're flight animals at their core. You're always going to run the risk of explosion, but with a blank slate, it can be a whole lot lower.
Yes.
So, again, we're not advocating for one party versus another, but we are advocating that you give Mustangs a chance and do your own research before making a judgment call.
Yeah, definitely look into it. If this is something that, maybe piques your interest, doesn't ever hurt.
No.
Learn about things, do all that you can to just gather all that resource and the information. And heck, take a look at the BLM and their site. They have horses, on their online auction pretty much year round. They might have been horses that were adopted out, but you can see kind of what it looks like and all the different animals there.
And while I'm not a fan, because people do get very polarized, there are Mustang groups out there on social media that can kind of give you an insight into their versatility, their skill set, their temperaments, their brains, because each HMA does have, stronger influences than another.
Yeah.
And you can actually see that come into play sometimes on those groups.
Yeah. And even like on the advocate side, you can see a lot of wildlife photographers. They'll go out to the rangelands and take pictures of these herds. And some of the horses end up getting rounded up. So you can kind of see where they end up.
Right.
Any that had gotten adopted out.
It's not unheard of for people to adopt very popular horses.
Yes.
And send them to sanctuaries where they can live out their days as, as a herd horse.
Yep.
With their, old herd mates. It's not unheard of. But, it's also not unheard of for people to take Mustangs and use them as cow horses, pack horses, trail horses, show horses. So, give the Mustang a chance.
Yeah. Do your research.
And make sure it's well-rounded research. It's very easy to polarize yourself, and we highly encourage you to not do that.
Yeah. Look at different aspects of it and try to put yourself in other people's shoes.
Yes. Yeah. Truly, don't knock it before you try it.
Yeah. Because Mustangs are pretty darn cool.
They really are. And after seeing Sundown's whatever is influencing his build.
You're wanting a Mustang.
110% I would get one because I like him chunky, and Sundown's looking like he's gonna be chunky.
He's gonna be a chunker, and he's gonna be tall.
He's got long legs and big feet.
Yep.
As well as that big old booty.
Yeah.
That's gonna be. Yeah.
And a big head, too. Like
he's got a noggin on him.
He's just big all around, okay?
Yeah, he's gonna be a chunk monk.
Yeah.
So poor Willie's gonna start looking like a shrimp on our trail rides.
Well, especially with Willie's age too. Yeah,
oh, poor
he's
guy.
getting up there.
Yeah. So this is the BLM. This is us covering it.
Yeah.
Our next episode, we're gonna really dive into how versatile can the Mustang be.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. We hope you enjoyed this week's topic. Join us for new episodes every Sunday. And to keep up with the herd, be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Highline Herd and visit our website at thehighlineherd.com. We hope you enjoy the show. See you next week.